Anugraha. Hope you're all keeping very well. Welcome back to Mother Anugraha. Friends, it's such a great pleasure for we religious people and would-be religious people coming together and kind of recharging our batteries. So Anugraha is a charging station, and of course it is connected to God. And now we are all together, we are getting connected to God and we are recharging our batteries. Friends, so happy to tell you that during pandemic time, we've been having online sessions like this. And friends, the good news is now we are having the 50th seminar. So this seminar is the 50th seminar we are holding, and we are really happy about it. Friends, welcome one and all. And have a very good time with Mother Anugraha.
Good evening, Father.
Good evening all. And so we'll be a team of fathers who will be animating you. I'm Sundar Wilson, and along with me there are other fathers who will be animating. Welcome one and all. And alongside we have good hosts, Reverend Ben, who is a chief host, and along with him we have Miss Anusha, who will be the co-host. Okay, friends, welcome once again. Friends, religious people and those who are getting formed in the diocesan seminary, we all lead a community life, right? Community life is so essential. If understood properly, this community life can become a blessing. But if not understood properly, the same community life can become a curse to each and every one of us. So friends, as we are giving you this information, you can take down these notes, and we will be sending you questionnaires. You can do a self-reflection, you can do group discussion, and then this will certainly help our community living. So let's proceed to our community life in formation. Our Pope Francis seems to focus so much on our community life. You know, the kingdom values have to be practiced foremost in our community life, and we are able to radiate this joy to people. Friends, in the Bible, we read in Isaiah 11:6-9, and the wolf will dwell with the lamb, and the leopard will lie down with the young goat, and the calf and the young lion and the fatling together, and a little child will lead them. Also the cow and the bear will graze, their young will lie down together, and the lion will eat straw like ox. The nursing child will play by the hole of the cobra, and the weaned child will put his hands on the viper's den. They will not hurt or destroy in all my holy mountain, for the earth will be full of the knowledge of the Lord as the waters cover the sea. Friends, here God is even bringing animals together to live. Friends, you know what? Even though we are human beings, you know, the back part of our brain, for you all, I'm not sure whether I have one, but the back part of the brain, we have it in common with all animals. Okay, friends, imagine each one of us, we are exhibiting 2 or 3 or 4 animal instincts. By the way, this webinar is going to be based mostly on animal instincts we have within us. Once we transform and transmute these animal instincts, then we can become divine beings in our community. If we don't understand these animal instincts properly, Friends, they also can become a source of conflict, a source of confusion, and then we will become counter witnesses in our mother church. Okay, friends? So, let's begin. I want to start with a little question. Friends, recently, Harvard University, it's been doing this research for 75 years. Harvard University in the US, okay? They wanted to know what job is the most satisfying job, or people belonging to a particular career, they seem to be the happiest, okay? Friends, this is not something from my imagination. This is from research done by Harvard University, US for 75 years. Can you guess and type into that chat box, and can you guess and write what according to you might be the most satisfying job? Friends, in terms of even secular life, okay, what job do you think might be the most satisfying? You're welcome to type into the chat box. A priest, doctor, teacher, pastor, service to humankind, serve with love, social work, teaching, priest, joy, nursing, religious people. Okay. Formators. Oh, really? Okay. and a job that involves giving, preaching, living for Christ, living in the community, firefighters. Oh, great. Okay. Friends, I have a good news for you. Again, this is not from me. This is from Harvard University. People who have, highest level job satisfaction are priests and pastors. You might be wondering, how about religious people? I will explain that a little later. Friends, can you guess and type in the chat box why priests seem to be the happiest people? Why? Okay, this is a study done by Harvard University, and there must be a reason, right? Yep. You are welcome to type. Yeah, because they do service. They are connected with people all the time. Good. They are in relationship with God and human also. And they have no expectation because no wife and children, no expectation. Okay. Social connection with people, and because they are connected to God and people, wonderful. Community life. They are always connected to people and God. There's a freedom inside. They are selfless. They are having daily mass. They are God related. Okay. They are after the heart of Christ and not money. Okay. Dying with Christ, focused. So there are so many reasons. They are all wonderful. Okay. Friends, now they have discovered a great truth. Those who relate with people, relating with people is proportionate to happiness and longevity of life, good health, and 16 areas of well-being. Am I clear? The more I relate with people, the better health, the better happiness and longevity of life I have. So somewhere, relationship really, really matters. Now, priests, they are involved with people all the time, right? From the time a person is born. We have so many sacraments. Even after death, there is funeral. So priest is there for people, okay? In the name of men, through sacrament, he connects with people and God all the time. While celebrating sacrament, he becomes a bridge. He bridges God and people. And because of this, okay, there's so much of happiness that really, really wells up in their mind. Priests. Friends, contrary to what most people think, actually priests are maybe the happiest people in the world. Okay, friends, because throughout the day, in some form, they are connected to people. Now, I don't say 100% of priests. No. In general, who are all the time people oriented, they seem to be very happy. How about religious? Friends, if you relate with people in good and in bad times, if you have a good rapport with people, you also will be happy. Every religious person will be happy. Okay, friends? Now, number two, after priests, who is next in the list? Social workers. All those who are involved in serving people who are less privileged. Okay, friends, now you're all in formation, right? You may not be directly involved in social work, but even within the community, if you have that sense, that social sense, I'm here for the community, I love my community. If you have that sense of belonging, you feel proud of belonging to your particular community, to your congregation, your order, you would naturally be happy. Okay, friends? And the third are firefighters. Friends, actually, it's a risky job, right? Sometimes they have to even give up their life in order to save somebody. Any kind of risky situation, they are supposed to be, just dive into that. And they have to save people from fire, from flood, and all sorts of disasters, earthquake and all that. Firefighters, they are supposed to be involved in people. Okay, friends? And how do we say they are happy? Friends, every time you forget about yourself and only the need of the people is in your mind, okay, that gives a highest level of happiness. Okay, friends? Now, you might ask a question. Then firefighters should be at the top of the rung, right? Not priests, because they are offering their lives. Friends, again, when it comes to even quantity, priests are connecting with people more often than firefighters, okay? For firefighters, self-giving comes once in a way. It's not a day-to-day matter. It comes once in a way. Whereas priests, they are involved in the life of people every day. They celebrate sacrament. And of course, religious people, those who are not celebrating Mass, like sisters and all that, they come under the second category. Like Mother Teresa and religious women are rendering service. And sometimes, we even sacrifice our life for the sake of other people. Friends, you know what? More than 100,000 religious people have died in various pandemics serving people. Okay, so we are fortunate that with all our consecration, we are actually happier than the lay people. Okay, friends, we are happier provided we have accepted our life. We are happy with the situation. You might be happier than the lay people. Okay, friends, they made a list of 20, but I'll stop with 4, okay? Now, if you have these 3 in your life, you will be the happiest person in the world. So these are the 3. So develop a positive relationship with your community, number 1, and be a happy giver. You are happy to give. And third, like firefighters, when you are of that type, that category, okay, then you are a happy religious. Okay, friends? Friends, now I'm going to say something. It might be different from the frame you have. Okay, so can you all listen to this carefully? Every for me, the moment you enter religious life, the seminary, You almost become like a little baby, a little infant that is newly born. Okay? So as soon as you enter the convent, as soon as you enter the seminary, now what do you look for initially? Friends, can you type in the chat box what you normally expect in your formation house as you enter? What's your number one expectation? You are most welcome to type. Motherly care for a friend, parental figure, affection, care, love, acceptance, companion, caring, comfort and freedom, warm welcome, freedom, homely care by formators, okay, to be accepted, attention, mother, joy, happiness. Okay, wonderful, wonderful, peace, prayerful house and all that. Friends, most of you, you already have an idea. When you enter the formation house, first you are looking for a mother. Okay, a mother figure whom you can connect and feel very comfortable, protected, okay, accepted. That's what we look for first, you know. So we want that place to be a loving place, a place where I feel very comfortable. There's a homey feeling in that place. That's what we look for. Okay, friends? You know what? Unconsciously, everybody keeps looking for somebody who resembles your mom. Okay, so you become a little baby and first you look for mother figure. So many of you are right. You look for a mother figure. Okay, friends, something interesting. You know what? When you were a baby, you were smelling your mom, right? Now, you come across a formator who smells like your mom, you really, really feel comfortable with that formator. So now after the session, you go and sniff all your formators, okay? And check whether they are smelling like your mom. Well, you may not know it consciously, okay? Okay, so first you look for your mother figure. Friends, literally, you look for somebody who smells like your mom. If any formator who is closest to your mother's smell, you are drawn to them, you like them, and you bond with them. Okay? Friends, once you start feeling comfortable in your formation house, and then you start looking for a father figure. Friends, no matter whether you are a man or a woman, doesn't matter. You just look for a mother figure. Even in a seminary, even in a convent, you look for a father figure. Friends, father figure is the one, okay, who guides you, who you can emulate. Okay, mother is the one who gives you protection and love, all that. The person you can bond with. Dad is the one you can emulate, you can imitate. You look for a role model. Got it? Yeah. Friends, anybody who smells like your father, you become comfortable with that formator. Am I clear? Then what's the next thing you look for? Brothers and sisters, your siblings in the formation house, especially among companions. If some of your companions are smelling like your sisters and brothers in your home, you feel very comfortable with them. Only for a temporary period of time. Then things would change. Okay, friends? Now, look at this. After entering the formation house, you know, there are three needs that come to the fore. You start looking for, you know, people who will meet your needs. These are the three needs. Okay, friends? Number one is called a mirroring need. What is that mirroring need? Somebody in your community who sees everything from your point of view. Am I clear? They understand you intellectually. They understand your situation. They understand your background and they accept you unconditionally. You look for a mirror. Friends, now take a physical mirror, okay? Friends, this is a physical mirror, okay? You look at the mirror that reflects exactly your figure, right? Yeah. So we are looking for a mirror in the community who sees everything the way I see, okay? Who understand everything from my point of view, okay, friends? Somebody who doesn't judge me. That's the first need we all have, okay? After we look for mom and dad, then we look for a mirror. And then second, validating, okay? You want somebody to appreciate you. You want somebody to validate. What is validation? Somebody to tell you, you are so precious. You know, you are really valuable. And whatever you're going through, I can connect with that. You make sense to me. So that's validating. So you're looking for somebody who would affirm you, who would give you esteem, respect, all that. It's quite natural. As children, you know, we expected these from our family people and others. So even in the formation house, we will do the same. We do something and then we want our formators and our companions to appreciate us, to affirm us, and all that. And the third one is, okay, empathizing. It's another form of love. Who can feel with you? Friends, first level is only understanding intellectually. But in the third level, you are looking for somebody, okay, who feels with you. When you are happy, they are also happy. When you are sad, they are able to not only sense your sadness, they also feel with you. No, compassion. They are compassionate towards you. Okay, they feel one with you. Okay, friends, these are the three needs we all have. Okay, friends, I'm sorry to tell you, no matter whether you are a religious or a non-religious person, okay, once you attain puberty and afterwards, every time you look for a need, you have a need, you want to satisfy your need using people, it will never happen. So, all dear friends, my little children, I want to tell you, I've been guiding thousands of formies in my experience. I've seen this all the time. Friends, even married people, when they enter the marriage, they are entering with the needs. They want their spouse, they want their in-laws to fulfill their needs, which will never happen. So sorry to tell you, when you are entering a community, you are looking for, mirroring, somebody who would understand you, somebody who would give you respect and esteem, somebody who would feel with you. That's not going to happen. Am I shocking you? But friends, that is a truth. Little later, I'll tell you why. Okay? So community is not a place where you can meet your needs initially. Now listen to this carefully. I don't meet my initial needs in a community. That will not happen at all. Friends, that's why we get into trouble in our community. Okay? Or when people are married or while working. Okay? This is what happens. Okay. Now, when you're having these three needs, you have need for love, you have need for understanding. You want people to appreciate you and affirm you. Now I'll tell you how the community will respond. Friends, this is human nature. Okay. We're not going to blame anybody for this. Don't blame your companions, your formators. Okay. The moment you have expectations, you will have disappointment. Friends, take down this very carefully, important. So how would the community respond to your needs? Okay, you're looking for mirroring need, you have validating need, you have empathizing need. Sorry, the community will respond by judging you. You will end up being judged instead of understood. Got it? You will not be understood, rather you will be judged. So the community might judge you, they might pass comments on you, they might put you down, call you name, and they can even create rumors about you. Okay, friends? Friends, please understand, we are all going to be consecrated, or some of us are already consecrated. Okay? Friends, consecration doesn't take away hormones from our body. We have the same body. We have the same mind. We have same emotions. We are consecrated, yeah. But there's no change in our body. No, your body doesn't become angelic right away the moment you enter formation. All are human beings, okay? So friends, there's some blessing we have beyond being a human person because you are a religious, you are a priest, okay? But that doesn't take away the physical needs. Is it shocking for you? Number two, friends, we can see this in the Bible. Okay, the woman caught in adultery. Actually, she's a victim. Nobody understands her. They keep judging her. She's a victim of a social injustice, but the society all the time blamed her for all the injustice. Okay? Yeah. Whereas Jesus sees her very differently. The way this woman was judged, that's the way you will be judged in your community. Please keep this in mind. Okay? Same way. Number two, very important. Please highlight this point. So instead of people validating you, they will develop jealousy toward you. They'll be jealous of you. Okay? Friends, when you take a family or a community, this is the dynamics. Okay? Friends, we are all like this. By the way, the more you try to impress your community members, the less they will be impressed. Okay? Don't ever try to impress your own family or your own community. It's not going to work. Why? It's a totally different dynamics. What's that? Okay. Now, friends, we all are of this nature, okay? In a community, we all want to be equals, and I want to be a little above everybody. That's a natural instinct. Okay, friends, it's a natural for everybody to be the focus of attention in my community. Like I want everybody to give me extra attention, extra love, extra this, extra that. That's our natural expectation. With this, we are entering the community. But we will end up, being victimized by jealousy. Friends, supposing if you are a better singer than others, most people may not appreciate you. Actually, they'll be jealous of you. If you're more, maybe you're a better reader. When you read, you are having a good unction. You are having a great, good accent. Actually, people might put you down. They will call you names and they will find fault with little things and then they might exaggerate it. Please be prepared for it. But friends, I'm posing the problem, but I'm going to give you a solution. Okay? So please be prepared. Don't think because we are all consecrated people, we are all little angels with the wings of flying. Sometimes after joining, did you go to your formator and touch at the back to see whether there was a wing? They have wings hidden inside. Did you check? Yeah. Okay. Friends, that's what we are expecting our formators to be. We want them to be perfect mother and dad, and they have to fulfill all our needs, which will not happen in a community or even in a family once you attain puberty in a family. Okay. Till then, children are cared for. Once children attain puberty, they cannot make use of the family to fulfill their needs. Friends, this might be a big shock for most of us. Unknowingly, every one of us, we want to fulfill our needs by using our community, which will not happen. Rather, they will feel jealous of you. Okay? Even if you are a good person, you are doing great, you are highly motivated, others will feel jealous of you. Okay? In the Bible, we see when Abel is very good, he's in the good books of God, of Yahweh, Cain feels so jealous, he even kills him. Okay, friends, we are all descendants of these people, right? So don't you think there'll be jealousy within us? Friends, do you know about this this crab story? Okay. Friends, once they were transporting a lot of crabs. They were in a basket. Okay. One of the passengers asked the man who was carrying a basket full of crabs. They were all alive. No, they were all alive. He asked, "Hey, you don't want to cover it?" He said, "No." "Why not?" He said, "Look inside." When he looked inside, you can see when crabs are together, when one crab tries to go ahead, it starts climbing. It goes higher. All the other crabs, they become so jealous. So what they do, they all together grab the crab and they pull it down. Then another crab tries to grow, and then everybody else, they pull it down. Friends, this is human nature. No matter where you go, you will come across people, especially the people you live with. They feel jealous of you when you are growing. Am I clear? Externally, they might say, you are good, wonderful, and all that. But behind you, they'll be literally grinding their teeth, okay? And they'll be so jealous of you. So please be prepared to face all these. Got it, dear children? Okay, good. And the third, instead of empathizing, actually you might experience apathy, lack of love, lack of affect among people, okay? Or people don't care. You don't matter to them at all. You might come across all these in your formation. Okay, friends? Now, please be mentally prepared. Even in the Bible, we see the king is throwing a wedding banquet and he invites the citizens. So they're all totally, they ignore the king. They don't care about him. That's the experience you might have in a community. Am I clear? Now, I'll repeat this, okay? Please, as you enter the community, don't expect to fulfill all your needs by making use of a community, okay? So if you are entering the community with this intention, you will have disappointments, okay? So what you will have? First, you will be judged by your companions, by your formators, and then they will feel jealous of you. You try to impress your community. Actually, instead of feeling impressed, they might feel jealous of you. They'll try to pull you down. That's natural. Friends, in any way, if you are outshining others, they feel jealous and they pull you down. I guess everybody here can connect with this, right? Because you are experiencing this. You are going through this in your community, in your family. Okay. And third is, instead of empathizing with you, instead of feeling one with you, they might have apathy towards you. They don't care for you. Okay. They are emotionally indifferent to you. Friends, now what to do? How to proceed? So shall we quit the congregation, quit the diocese or order? No. Now, foremost, keep this in mind. Community is not there to fulfill my needs. Okay, somebody else is there to fulfill my needs. Okay, friends, if you get this right, you will be a happy, religious, happy priest later. Friends, when you don't get these three needs met, then there's something called optimal frustration. Can you take this down? Very important word. When you don't get your needs met, and then you will have a little frustration inside. Sometimes you might even have this feeling, maybe I've come to the wrong place. Sorry, you have come to the right place. Okay, that's the feeling you have. When there's a term for this optimal frustration, it is called Elijah syndrome. Come on, everybody say Elijah syndrome. Come on, say it again. Elijah syndrome. What is Elijah syndrome? We read in 1 Kings chapter 19, verses 1 to 8. Okay. Elijah is a great prophet. He's doing the work of God. Little time God is helping him. Friends, afterwards, that Queen Jezebel, she's after him, after his life. She's trying to kill him. Then he runs. He gets into the desert place. And then there he's really devastated. He's angry with God and he says, God, this lady is after me. She has already killed my friends and she's after my life. How come you're not protecting me? How come you're not taking care of me? How come you're not meeting my needs? He's really upset with God. And he says, God, I'm going to lie under this broom tree. You take away my life. I don't want to live. I want to die. Some of you might have this feeling, and you would have a feeling, oh, this place is not good. Maybe I came to the wrong place. All these are true, friends. It's all part of our growing. Okay? It's called Elijah syndrome. By the way, if you have not got Elijah syndrome so far, if you're not in a confusion, okay, tell me, I will create confusion in you. Okay? Friends, if you're not confused about vocation, that's not a good sign. During your formation, at one point, you have terrible crisis and you feel this life is meaningless. I don't want to live this life and all that. You are in a right space, okay? When I was in formation, I even thought there's no God. I became an atheist. And I thought all these Bible stories are cock and bull stories. They are all balonies. Good for nothing. There's no God at all. Science is everything. I was after Albert Einstein, science, astrophysics and all that. And then later, something happened to me. I realized the truth. Okay, friends? So if you feel lonely, you're on the right track. If your people are judging you, you have come to the right place. If you feel that people are so jealous of you, they call you names, they put you down, all the time, they are troublemakers for you. You are in the right space. That happened to every prophet. Friends, if somebody doesn't have all this, you're going to have this crisis later. But the more you are delaying, the crisis will be bigger. Am I clear? So the earlier, the better. Supposing in the first year of your joining, you're terribly confused. I would say, hooray! You are on the right track. Okay, the earlier the confusion, the better. Okay, every saint, every prophet went through that. Okay, friends, I guess now you're slowly beginning to feel comfortable, right? Because you're having this experience. And if you feel people are they have so much of apathy. They are apathetic towards you. They are not, emotionally relating with you. They are not, or some people might even show a lot of anger, animosity. They are not talking to you. All these are apathy. People are revengeful. They are taking revenge on you. They are making up stories about you. Am I clear? Friends, all these tell you, you are somebody like Prophet Elijah. You are on the right track. And that also says God is really with an open arms. God is inviting you. Friends, now what we try to do is, when I feel I'm judged, when I feel people are jealous of me, they are feeling jealous, they have jealousy, and I feel they are apathetic toward me. They are angry toward me. They are hating me instead of loving. Okay, then most of us, we try all the more to meet our needs in a community, which will never ever happen. Friends, this is true even in the family or in a workplace, apostolate place. Okay, now what we have to do is, instead of trying to get your needs met in a community, rather turn toward a resourceful state. Okay, what is a resourceful state? Jesus says in John 7:38, okay, the one who believes in me will have streams of living water flow from deep within him. Okay, That means if you are having recourse to Jesus, you yourself will become a spring. That's called resourceful state. Am I clear? Friends, we have power cut here, current, electricity cut. So what do? We have an UPS, okay, a little battery. So when there is a power failure, I can connect to the battery. So can you create a battery inside? Okay, friends, if you are able to do this, resourceful, and then your life will be very different, okay? Friends, how to be in a resourceful state? Yeah, turn to the shepherd. Good shepherd. Jesus mentions this many, many times. Okay. Friends, when the good shepherd fulfills all your needs, you find your own way of connecting with Jesus personally. Okay, friends, you connect with Jesus personally and also
I think there is an internet error. Just hold on for a minute. Due to poor networking, Father has to will be joining soon.
Oh, sorry, friends. Okay. Friends, I was not able to access our Wi-Fi. So what happened? I have a little modem. Okay. So this is helping me right now. Same way, if you can create a resourceful state within, when I'm not able to meet my needs in my community, once I create a battery within, okay, and then you see the community will respond to you differently. Am I clear? Friends, if you turn to Jesus and fulfill this mirroring need, validating need, and empathizing need, all these three needs are met with Jesus, and the community will respond to you positively. Got it? Okay. Friends, now let's see, when you are connected to Jesus, see, you might say, I'm connected. Later, we will see in detail how to fulfill our needs, okay? Yeah. Friends, now three needs of for me, okay? How Jesus meets them. Okay. Actually, Jesus is mirroring the needs of people, right? Like once he's preaching and he's able to sense that people are all hungry. He's able to sense their state of mind, their body, their emotions. I feel them, right? Yeah. So that is how Jesus mirrors them. He senses their need right away. Okay, that is how Jesus takes care of us. He's a good mirror to us, not even our formators. Number two, validating need. Validating for Zacchaeus. Friends, Zacchaeus, you have heard the story over and over again. He was such a, I mean, in the sight of people, he was deplorable. People didn't like him at all. But Jesus calls him you are son of Abraham. What does that mean? I'm also son of Abraham. You are also a son of Abraham. That means both of us are brothers. So Jesus calls Zacchaeus my brother. What a validating he does. When everybody aboard Zacchaeus, they called him a tax collector, a parasite, a bad guy, a mean guy. We don't like him at all. And people really hated such people. Jesus says, you're my brother. So friends, once we connect with Jesus, we will really, Jesus really validates us. And third need is an empathizing need. Friends, we can see Jesus really empathizing. Okay, when Martha and Mary, when they lost their brother Lazarus, he really wept with them. He was, friends, he knew he was going to do a miracle, but still, no, he really felt for them, and this is compassion. He was one with them. So friends, once you experience mirroring from Jesus, once you experience validating from Jesus, once you experience empathizing from Jesus, okay, then your community will respond differently. Okay, friends, before we go into how the community is going to respond, shall we also go into the animal kingdom and learn little lessons from animals? Today and tomorrow, there'll be more focus on the animals within us. Okay, friends? Okay, hope you're all happy. Friends, just for a couple of minutes, if somebody wants to raise any question, you're most welcome. Like I told you, if you want to meet your needs, making use of your community, that's not going to happen. Okay, they will turn around and feel jealous of you. They will be apathetic toward you. They will judge you, put you down. But when you fulfill all your needs, with Jesus, you fulfill them, and then you turn toward your community, their response will be a little different, because they will not see you as an empty cup. You will be seen as a cup filled with love. And the way they turn to you will be different. Friends, any question?
Friends, there is a hand icon.
Okay,
You can use it for intervention.
Okay, maybe toward the end. So let's continue. Friends, look at the animals. In the jungle, we have lions and tigers. And we also have deer. Friends, for millions and millions of years, lions and tigers were preying on deers. They were killing. So millions of years, okay? There were millions of lions and millions of tigers and millions of deers. Every day, lions and tigers were preying on deer, okay? So according to our mathematical calculation, our logic, right now, lions and tigers should be big in number, right? And deer should have become extinct. That means they would be dead and gone, because every day they were eaten by lions and tigers. But the truth is, even though, deer is a vulnerable animal, okay? Friends, the truth is, strong animals are actually decreasing in number. Do you know there are less than 4,000 lions in the whole world and less than 8,000 tigers in the entire world? In fact, they are spending so much of money trying to preserve these two. Okay. Friends, do you know the only species that is increasing in number naturally? Deer. Friends, also broilers, okay? But broiler chicken, growing them, okay? Otherwise, naturally, deers are actually increasing in number even now, okay? Even though they are vulnerable, they are increasing in number. So what could be the reason? Friends, take a lot of animals. No animal is perfect, right? Animals have their own weakness, but they have one quality. Like, let's see, snail cannot run like a tiger or lion, right? Snail has to crawl slowly. A turtle, tortoise, cannot run fast. They are crawling creatures. They walk slowly. Starfish cannot move fast. It moves very slow. Unlike other fish, starfish moves very slowly. Okay. Friends, actually, there are some animals which cannot even move. Take, for example, sponges. Sponge is a plant or animal, whatever. It can't even move. Corals, you can see here, they don't even move. Scorpions, they don't have eyes at all. They cannot see, they are blind totally. Okay. Friends, a lot of worms, earthworm variety, they are totally blind. They are inside the soil, okay, and they don't have eyes at all. Do they complain? No. The animals, they have wings, but they cannot fly, like ostrich, emu, okay, or penguin. All having wings, but they are able to fly. Have you ever seen them complaining about this? Have you ever seen them playing? Friends, do you know some animals cannot even swim, like apes? They don't even swim. Friends, actually, but tortoise cannot.
Father, your voice is breaking, Father.
Elephant. Oh, really? I'll try. Am I clear now?
Still, I think it's breaking, Father.
Am I okay now?
Yeah, it's better, Father.
Okay. Friends, sorry, both the connections are giving me trouble. Okay, so all animals, they have their problems. Friends, even a baby elephant cannot jump. Elephants only walk. All other animals, they jump and play, have fun, but elephants can't. Same way, okay, a lot of animals don't have ears, like crocodile, snake, lizard, alligators. These ones don't have ears. Do they ever complain? But friends, animals somehow, they accept their qualities. Okay, they never compare themselves with others. Have you ever seen a dog comparing itself with a cat? No, they are happy with themselves. Friends, once they are happy with themselves, then God provides them something called a transmuting power. Okay, friends, they are able to transmute their power. Okay, what is transmuting? Let me give you an example. Oyster. Okay, friends, oyster, it creates little pearls, right? Pearls are mostly created in the oyster. Okay, so what does an oyster do? How does this pearl get formed in an oyster? Okay, friends, many of you know this already, but still I'm explaining this. Now, oyster, it has got two shells, and inside it, its body is there. And body is very soft and supple. You just saw now, okay, that body. It's very soft, very supple, and it's fixed to that shell. Okay, it is in the ocean. As an oyster is moving, sometimes what happens, a grain of sand can enter inside, a dirt can enter inside. See, a grain of sand is so hard, if it remains inside and the oyster is moving, It can literally cut open its body and the liquid inside will come out and it can die. So friends, it's actually a problem, a challenge, a grain of sand that enters an oyster. You know, when a sand enters, what the oyster does is this, okay? Friends, the moment it is there, it tries to produce a liquid in its mouth. And it covers this little sand with this liquid. And when it is hard, it adds another layer, another layer. It keeps on adding until at some point it becomes a pearl, white pearl. Friends, when a pearl is created, what an oyster does it keeps the pearl at the back and then leads, and it is very cool. It keeps this oyster very flexible, cool, and comfortable. Okay, friends, how a challenge is converted into strength. Friends, that's what we can do when we look at our weaknesses. Same way, let's go to another creature called deer. Okay, friends, don't get frightened. This is a nostrils of a deer. There's something special about it. Okay. Friends, you know what? All animals, they have, you know, in their nose, a special, an organ inside their nostril, and it's called Jacobson's organ. Jacobson's organ, you know, little sensor inside their nostril. That's why their nostril is wet all the time. Why? They get signal from outside. Friends, it's a big signal. Okay. Now, deer is one of the most vulnerable animals. Why? It is not as strong as lion or tiger. You know, some animals can defend themselves, but deer cannot. Why? It is so vulnerable. But God has done something to this deer. Okay, friends. Friends, deer has got specialized nostril. For deers, this Jacobson's gland is little bigger than other animals. I'll tell you what it really does. Okay, friends, whenever animals, when they want to relax, you know what they do? They do this. Okay, they lick their nostril and they can relax. Have you seen dog after running? He sits and starts doing this in order to relax. Friends, some of us, when we are in tension, we do this, right? This is also just to relax. Don't you do this sometimes? When you are alone, you nose, okay? Actually, friends, picking the nose is, the intention is to relax. Anybody who picks a nose is actually in tension. When you are tense, there's a special sensation in the nose. Just by tickling your nose like this, you feel actually relaxed. Okay? You don't do it in the public, but privately, you like to do this when you are in tension. You like to pick the nose. Why? By doing that, you can feel relaxed a little. Okay? Yeah. Friends, now this Jacobson's organ or a gland, it's actually a scanner, an antenna. Okay? Friends, now, I said it's vulnerable. Deer is a vulnerable animal, but it's so energetic. Okay? Life energy is very high for this ones. Friends, deer is maybe the only animal. Deer is the only animal. Listen to this. Deer is the only animal that keeps hopping even at an old age. See, all other animals, when they are baby animals, they hop. You know, they run and they hop like this. But deers, even in their old age, they hop. Maybe they are the happiest animal. Why, you know? Deers, they are the happiest. Friends, we have seen children, while they walk, they keep on hopping. You know, we call it baby hopping. Any one of you do you do that? Please do it more. When you're walking along the corridor, in the garden, try to do baby hopping sometimes like this. Why? When you do this, you get a lot of energy, life energy. Okay? Friends, your body will relax like anything. Only thing is your formator will give you warning. Okay? They say you're not serious at all. Okay. But please, you convey this message to your formators. Okay. Hereafter, when you walk, you can hop and walk inside the chapel also. Okay. Jesus is happy when you're hopping. You are a Jesus baby, right? Hop and walk. Okay. Friends, dears do something. If you are able to do these two, and then see how your community will respond to you. So how do you know you are connected to Jesus? First, you will trust the inner guidance. You know you are being guided from within. Second, we have to surrender. Friends, deers do this automatically. That's why in Psalm 42, you know, this verse 1, okay? Like the deer that yearns for running streams, I long for you, my God. You know, deers, they yearn for God. They are connected to God. They have Bluetooth connection with God. And they surrender themselves totally. Friends, because of this, something happens to them. Now, friends, something good about deers, okay? Let's say a lion is chasing a deer, and deer hops and runs, and the lion is chasing. A lion or a lion can chase maybe at the most for a kilometer, not beyond that. Tiger can run even more than a kilometer, maybe a kilometer and a half, not beyond that. But a deer can run more than 5 kilometers non-stop without any difficulty. Okay, friends, when a lion or a tiger is not able to catch a deer and they leave the boundary, see, normally if somebody chases you with a dagger, knife, or a gun, would you be able to sleep immediately? No. Friends, a deer, after the lion or tiger leaving the boundary, there's 100-meter boundary around the deer, okay? Or sometimes a 50 meters is a inner circle. Once the lion leaves, a deer can lie down. Within 20 to 30 seconds, they can sleep. Friends, if somebody chases you with a gun and then they are arrested by police, would you get sleep right away? I know somebody seeing a thief, one sister, she was unable to sleep for 4 months. At night, she would not sleep at all. She will wake up with the fear and trembling. She came to me for counseling. But deer can sleep so much. Okay. Friends, there's a difference between our sleep and deer sleeping. Okay. When we are sleeping, some of us, when we are sleeping, we get sound, you know. Do you get that sound? It's okay. Friends, when we are sleeping, actually our mind is not sleeping 100%. It sleeps only 80%. 20% is like awake. Okay? Friends, why a little bit of our mind is awake? Because when you are sleeping, sometimes, okay, a mosquito might be biting you. Friends, sometimes when you are sleeping, if there's a mosquito, you just hit like this without even being aware of it. Okay? Friends, for that, it has to be. And you are sleeping on a cot in bed. Friends, small children, they roll down and fall on the floor. We grown-ups, we don't do. Why? A little bit of our mind is awake. Okay? And there are things to be done even when we are sleeping. When you hear an alarm, you have to wake up, right? For that, 20% of mind is awake. Okay? But for deers, it's a little different. Can you see here? Friends, when deers sleep, they are 100% sleeping and 100% they are awake also. That's something beautiful about deer. Okay, it can sleep 100% and be awake 100%. How? Okay, foremost, it relies on the providence of God. It knows God is protecting me, so it can sleep 100%. Friends, a deer has got sound asleep. At the same time, its Jacobson's gland is active in the nostril. Okay, that is awake. If any animal comes close, nearly 50 meters, even a deep sleeping deer will wake up right away and start running. Got it? Okay. Friends, first and foremost, it relies on God and it has got an alarm system. So it's happy. Number two, a deer can sense water or food anywhere. Friends, a deer standing here, its sensing is so powerful. Even if there's no water here, it knows where the next source is. Okay, so food is never a problem for deer because wherever they are, if there is a lack of food, they can sense where the next point where food is there. They can smell, they can sense it, they walk toward it. Okay, friends. Number three, deer is known for a community life. Friends, you have seen dogs, husband and wife, but during lunchtime, no husband, no wife. Supposing you keep meat in the same plate, husband and wife, what happens at that time? They start biting. Okay, you can keep food in the same plate for dogs, whereas deer, it's totally different. If you keep a bowl of water for 50 deers, they will share it equally. Even food, if you keep some grass, okay, no deer will grab it. Rather, it shares the food with the community. Okay, friends? Friends, can you do what the deer is doing? Foremost, you satisfy your need by connecting with Jesus. Okay? And turn to the community with love. And you see the community will respond to you positively. Now let's see how a community will respond to you. Okay, if you are already in a resourceful state, you are connected to Jesus. The community will become very understanding toward you. Your companions, your formators, instead of judging, they'll be very understanding. Number two, if you're in a resourceful state, okay, you will receive a lot of encouragement from your community, from your family. Third, if you're already connected to Jesus and you are in a resourceful state, your community will express love towards you. They'll be very loving. Okay, friends? Hope you get the point. Like deers, if you're already connected to Jesus, okay, the community will become very understanding. The community will start encouraging you. It will also start loving you. Friends, once again, Harvard University study, okay? They say this about relationship and community. Number one, those who work alone, some of us, we want to work alone. We have little happiness. Okay? But those who love to work in a community, in a group, they are saying their brain, it secretes more happiness hormones than those who work alone. See, that's where our community gains its meaning, right? We are invited to live in a community. Third, whenever you're working, it's not for me, I'm working for others. Highest level of happiness. Friends, it's similar to what I said at the beginning. These are studies done by Harvard University. Okay, friends? See, some of us are getting trained to become diocesan priests. How about a diocesan priest? Friends, even as a diocesan priest, if you are just alone all the time, you're going to be unhappy. Okay? If you all the time, you encourage a teamwork. See, there are times we are alone with the Lord in prayer. Fine. But other than that, the moment you are part of a community, even diocesan priests will be happier. And with the community, you are serving people. You will be the happiest. Okay, friends? So, if you can learn how to be happy in a community, you will be happier than living alone. Friends, it's not only happiness, even health. Friends, they have found out people who tend to work alone, men are 5 times prone to sickness than people who are in community, who are, who love the support of a community. Am I clear? Now, women, being in a community and being alone, those who are alone, working alone, women, they are prone to sickness 10 times more than those who work in a group. Am I clear? But the problem is when we work in a community, there's so much of jealousy, so much of judging, okay, so much of apathy, hatred, and anger. Yeah, that is true. But once you become resourceful and then go to your community, community becomes a great source of energy and strength for you. Okay, friends? And finally, there's one more study done about charity. Friends, I remember sharing about this earlier in another FOMIS seminar, but it's okay to repeat this because some of you are new. One social psychologist from Canada called Elizabeth Dunn, okay, she made an experiment with the happiness and money and service, all this. Okay, friends? Friends, she invited about 150 college students, teenagers like 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, this age students. 150 of them. She gave everybody, okay, $100, US dollars, $100 as a gift. Okay, this was sponsored by a company. So she gave everybody $100. And then she said, girls and guys, it was a Saturday morning, 10 o'clock. She said, with this $100, you go shopping, everybody. You have to complete your shopping by 4 p.m. She said, now you have a choice. You have this $100. You buy whatever you want, okay? But you have a choice. You can buy things for yourself and keep it in your room and come back here. Or you buy something for the poor people who will never be able to pay back. Okay, do charity with this $100. She said you cannot have 50-50 or a 70-30. No. Either spend $100 for yourself or spend the entire money for charity. Am I clear now? So she gave $100 to a lot of young people and said, go do shopping. If you want to buy things for yourself, okay, use all the $100 and finish it completely. Buy whatever you want. Go home, leave them there. Come back in the evening here to this spot. Or you might as well spend that money for the poor. Okay, you buy things that are useful for the poor. Go and deliver it. Give it to them. And don't give your identity and all that. Just give that, whatever you have bought for the poor, give to them, and then come back. Friends, can you type into the chat box your guesswork? Who do you think would be happier? I know it would be unanimous, right? Most of you would be very clear about it. Okay. Still, can you type? Among these two, some of them would have spent money on themselves. Some of them would have spent money on the poor. Who do you think was happier? Okay, charity. Friends, no doubt, it's very clear. I don't have to explain this to you. Now I'm going to explain the dynamics, okay, of the whole thing. Okay. Friends, those who bought things for themselves, what was their happiness level? Okay. Let's say, friends, this is just a mathematics. Somebody who's 45% happy, generally, after receiving $100, actually they got excited. The happiness went to 55%, okay? Oh, I have $100. I can buy things for myself, Okay, somebody wants to buy a mobile, somebody wants to buy some clothes, somebody wants to go to a restaurant, have a pizza, pasta, and biryani, and fried rice, and ice cream, all sorts of things. Okay. 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 Friends, those who bought things for themselves, what happened is they got excited, 55%. Okay. But once they bought things, it started declining from 55%. Now listen to this. Within an hour, 1 hour, their happiness came back to the set point, 45. You know, before receiving money, their happiness was 45%. They got excited, went up to 55. After buying, it started declining, and within an hour, came back to 45. That means after 1 hour, they were not happy at all. Okay, friends? So happiness, when you do things for yourself, you're happy, excited for a little time. It may not be a joy. Friends, excitement is for a short period of time. Joy lasts for a longer time. Now, what about those who bought things for the poor people? In fact, when they received the money, when they decided to buy something for the poor, their happiness, let's say, was 45%. It would have come down little, 40%. Oh, because I'm not going to buy things for myself, it's for others. Well, you know, friends, they all joined together, they went for shopping, and they started discussing, what shall we buy for the poor? Now listen, as we were discussing something good about others, what they can do for others, their happiness level started rising little by little. When they bought the things for poor people, their happiness shot up to 60%. As they went toward the people, poor people, it went up 70%. When they gave gifts and those people smiled and said, thank you, their happiness was 75%. Okay, friends? Friends, this lasted for many days, this happiness level. It's a research. Am I clear? So friends, even within the community, if I'm other-oriented, I want everybody to be happy. You know, I have this love for my community. You will be the happiest person in the community. Okay? Friends, Elizabeth Dunn also did similar studies. Okay? Friends, number one. When you do a charity, friends, charity need not be giving money all the time. Sometimes it is your helping hand. Sometimes you pray for others. Sometimes you extend your time, you know, you spend time for others, like seniors. So whenever you do a charity and people recognize you, you have happiness. How long? 2 hours. You're happy for 2 hours. Wonderful. Okay. Now, when you do a charity and nobody recognizes it, friends, like you go to your scullery, washing place, and a lot of vessels are there unwashed. People have left the vessels, they have gone. Now, without the knowledge of anybody, you wash all those vessels. Nobody has noticed you. No CCTV camera within your convent, within your seminary, okay? So nobody has seen it. According to research, can you see here? If you do a charity, you do something good and nobody has seen you, your happiness will last for 5 hours. Okay, friends? Now, you do a charity by incurring a little pain. For example, here, this man could have walked off, you know, in flood. But he carries another person. That is a pain, right? But when you are rendering service to others, okay, this way, and you incur a little pain, then happiness lasts for 12 hours. Okay, that's why Jesus said, what your right hand is doing, the left hand should not know. So he said, whenever you do a charity, okay, do it in secret. And if you're going through a little pain because you do charity, okay, friends, your happiness will be doubled. Okay, here they are rescuing a little girl or a little dog, by doing it, actually they will have happiness for 12 hours. Okay. Friends, brain works the best at the third level. So you want to do anything before that, if you can serve people in some way. Okay. But friends, the thing is, giving money is not the only way of serving. There are 4 things you can take down. One is monetary, money. Number 2, human service. Friends, sometimes we become volunteers, right? We don't give money when there is flood, when there is earthquake, when there is any natural calamity. We all reach out in service, right? Sometimes we don't send money. We can do human service. We volunteer and do a little service. Okay. Third is your presence. Some people, you spend time with them, and that is a kind of service. Like people who are sick in the hospital and seniors. Okay, when you spend time with them, they are feeling so good. What some people need is not money. They need your little time, quality time. And number 4 is intercession. If we are unable to do all this, we can pray for them. Okay, friends? So by doing it, we create an excellent community. Okay, friends? Tomorrow, we are going to different stages of communities and how we have negative animal instincts, how they interfere with our relationship, how we get into confusion, okay, in community life. Okay, friends, imagine in a convent or in a seminary, you have a couple of elephants, couple of lions and tigers and rhinoceros and a cobra and dogs, and all put them in all in one room. What happens? All animals, they'll be fighting with each other. Imagine every one of us, we have 3 or 4 animals within us. And if you are 10 people living together, there are 30 to 40 animals living together. That's why we get into trouble. So friends, tomorrow we will see how because of the animal instinct, we get into trouble with each other. And day after tomorrow, we will see how all these can be transmuted like a deer. Friends, I just said how we can connect with Jesus, but we haven't gone into the practicality of that, okay? Day after tomorrow, we will see how we can create a loving community. Okay, friends? So thank you, one and all. Friends, if there are other formation houses, they want to join us tomorrow, all are most welcome, okay? Just a couple of minutes. If there's any intervention you want to make, you're most welcome. Any little question?
In the reaction box, there is a hand raise icon. You can use it for interaction.
Okay. Friends, now can I request any one of you to say a little prayer, concluding prayer? Anybody? Sorry, I should have told you earlier. Okay. Anybody? You can okay, Sister Nina Varghese, you are most welcome. You can unmute and you can say a prayer.
Yes, Father, thank you. Jesus, we thank thee for this wonderful evening, and we thank thee for Father Sundar Wilson. May God bless him for all the lovely teachings he has taught us. Thank you, Jesus, for Mother Anugraha. Bless each of the participants today, and Jesus, help us to make and create an excellent community wherever we are placed. All this we ask in Jesus' precious name. Amen.
Amen.
So thank you all so much. Thank you one and all
for Father.
Participation. We will continue with our second session tomorrow at the same time. Thank you.
Thank you, Father.
Thank you.
Thank you, Father.
Thank you.
Father, it was a wonderful
Father.
session.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you all so much.
Thank you, Father.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you, Father.
Thank you.